Hey guys, this is Caustra here. Today I bring the long-awaited 7th installment of the GD Science series. So originally I didn't have a plan for what to do this episode, but very fortunately you guys reached out to me over Discord, and now I have some more episode ideas. I want to thank Zilla from Discord for the idea for this episode. Before we get into this episode, I want to introduce the co-host of this episode, Zaliuks.
Hello!
Today, we are going a little more in-depth about computer mice for GD. I want to take a look at types of computer mice, and some specific ones that would be great for GD, both performance and price-wise. So first up, let's talk about the categories here. The two big categories for computer mice are optical mice and laser tracking mice. I own an optical mouse currently, just for reference. The biggest difference between the two is the DPI, or the sensitivity of the mouse. A laser mouse is usually about double the sensitivity of an optical mouse. An optical mouse is cheaper usually, but a laser mouse would be good for use on a variety of surfaces. So basically, I would recommend an optical mouse to desktop users or anyone with a mouse pad, and a laser mouse for everyone else. There are also trackball mice, which essentially use a spherical input on top of the mouse instead of dragging it around. I'm mostly going to cover optical and laser mice, however, because seriously, who uses a trackball mouse?
Now that we have a basic idea of each one, let's look what makes Geometry Dash mouse good. The key thing is hand ergonomics. The longer you can play Geometry Dash without any hand cramps, the better the mouse. Mouse sensitivity isn't a big deal in Geometry Dash case, as it's mostly to do with the clicking.
I'm going to separate the computer mice into 3 categories. The first category is the budget category. These computer mice are all going to be under $30 US, or about $40 Canadian. The next category is the medium category, or the awkward middle child of all 3 categories. Mice in this category will range between $30 and $60 US dollars, or $40 to $80 Canadian dollars. And lastly is the enthusiast category. This category is filled with really top quality mice over the price of $60 US or $80 Canadian.
Okay, let's get started with the budget category, as that's the one everyone usually aims for. First up is the MSI Interceptor DS B1. It's a wired optical mouse from the MSI that has a surprisingly really good hand ergonomics for something that's only about $20 USA dollars or $25 Canadian dollars. However, its DPI is very low, so it may not be very well suited for other gaming purposes. Next up is the Asus Diablo. There's no denying it. This thing is literally the budget version of the G502 PROTEUS. It's another optical mouse that looks like exactly the same other than the LED colors, which are RGB in the Diablo's case. It's a really good alternative to the PROTEUS for only about 25 USA or 30 Canadian dollars. It has a DPI of about 2400, which I say isn't bad. And finally, we have the Gigabyte GM4 M7 Tor mouse. This mouse is quite an oddity. It's a laser mouse with a very unique but sleek ergonomic design, all for just 25 USA or 35 Canadian dollars. Between the 3, I would recommend the Asus Diablo, but all 3 are very good choices.
Real quick note before we end the budget category is an honorable mention, the Alla Soul Killer. It's a super budget mouse at only $13 US or about $18 Canadian, but it's a fair contender between all the budget gaming mice. Now we move into the medium category. This is where some bigger names in the electronics world start to emerge. First up is the Sharkoon Shark Force, and it's quite an interesting mouse as well. It's an optical mouse that only has a max DPI of 1600, but it has a surprisingly good ergonomic design and comes in green, pink, white, and black. A good mouse for only $30 US or $40 Canadian. Next up is the Dragon of Perdition. It's a laser mouse with a whopping 16,400 max DPI according to the sites that sell it. This thing has a massive amount of macro buttons on it, so that if that's something you like, this mouse might be for you. And also only at the price of about $30 US and somewhere around $45 Canadian. Next, we have the mouse I use actually. It's the Corsair Harpoon. The Harpoon, for such a simple and sleek design, actually nails the ergonomics. It comes with 2 macros on the left side that, unlike the Perdition, don't mess up the ergonomics due to the design of the buttons. It's an optical mouse that has a max DPI of 6,000, and it's honestly one of the best computer mice you can get for only $35 US or $50 Canadian. It's also RGB, and you can never go wrong with RGB. And finally, we have the Razer Deathadder. It's an optical mouse that has a max DPI of 3,500. This mouse has a very similar ergonomic design to the Harpoon, so it would be a pretty good alternative to the Harpoon. It is also priced as same as the Harpoon, at about $35 US or $50 Canadian. Between these 4 computer mice, I'd pick either the Harpoon or the Deathadder, as they are very similar, but offer substantial ergonomics that I'd even say compete with the G502 PROTEUS, but for around half the price. Finally, we enter the enthusiast category. This category is for all the super tricked out computer mice for super hardcore PC gamers, or if you're like Trump or something. First up is the Razer Naga Chroma, which is kind of like the Razer Deathadder and the Dragon of Perdition combined. It has the same ergonomic style the Deathadder had, but it has the unnecessary amounts of macros on the side like the Perdition. It costs about $65 US or about $90 Canadian. Good for hardcore gaming, but maybe not so much for Geometry Dash. Unless you're a hardcore hacker who abuses macros to straight fly. Don't get any ideas. Next is the Asus Strix Claw Dark Edition. It's an optical mouse with around 5,000 DPI. It's pretty standard, but honestly sometimes simplicity is the best way to go. It costs about $65 US or $90 Canadian. Finally, we have the Asus ROG Gladius 2. This thing is RGB overkill. RGB back, RGB underglow, you get the idea. It's an optical mouse that boasts a whopping 12,000 DPI. A very similar design to the Strix Claw mentioned earlier, but the one drawback to this is its price, which is about $95 US or $130 Canadian. For the enthusiast category, I'd most likely recommend the Asus Strix Claw Dark, as it's not overly expensive, but still features good ergonomics.
In conclusion, the best computer mice for Geometry Dash came in many forms, from the budget mice like the Asus Diablo, the in-between like the Harpoon or the Deathadder, and the high-end enthusiast mice like the Asus Strix Claw.
Any of these mice would work extremely well for GD due to their ergonomics, but again, I'd personally recommend either the Harpoon or the Deathadder. For the price, you really can't beat what they bring to the table. Anyways, that's all for this episode. If you have any suggestions, feel free to join the Discord I set up for this series, link in the description as usual. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode in the near future. Peace.